Have you ever noticed how the first 5 minutes of your morning determine the quality of your entire day? Think about it. Those initial moments when consciousness returns, what do you do with them? Do you immediately reach for your phone, allowing the world's chaos to flood your mind before you've even had a chance to set your own intentions? Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share might completely transform how you start each day. The power of your morning. Thoughts is far greater than most people realize. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up already feeling behind, already feeling stressed, and that energy seems to follow you throughout the entire day. It's not coincidence, it's causation. And Neville Goddard understood this profound truth decades before modern psychology caught up. The reality we experience isn't random or accidental. It's a direct reflection of the thoughts we consistently entertain and the actions those thoughts inspire. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's the fundamental law that governs our existence. Every circumstance, every relationship, every achievement or disappointment can be traced back to the mental seeds we've planted. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What makes the morning so critical is that your mind is in its most receptive state. The subconscious, which has been active all night, is still accessible in those first waking moments. It's like having direct access to your mental operating system before all the applications and notifications start running. The most successful people throughout history have understood this principle. They don't begin their day by absorbing external influences. Instead, they establish their own voice first. They speak strength and intention into existence before the world has a chance to tell them who they should be. When you stand up and speak power into your morning before touching your device, you're making a profound statement. I am the architect of this day, not its victim. The world isn't just passively waiting for you, it's actively watching to see how you'll show up. And deep down, you know you weren't born to blend in with the masses. You were built to break limits. Think about this. Everything you touch, everything you achieve, and yes, everything you fail to reach is simply a reflection of the thoughts you've allowed to take root and the actions you've chosen to take. Your life isn't determined by luck or fate. It's the culmination of decisions stacked upon decisions, built by the beliefs you enforce in your mind and the habits you carry through your day. What if the first thing you did tomorrow morning was to declare, with absolute certainty, my thoughts are the blueprints for my future? Because the hidden truth is that nothing about your future is predetermined unless you write it yourself. Every single thought you entertain is like a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. When you wake up and immediately allow doubt, fear, or limitation to enter your mental space, you're essentially empowering weakness. You're giving it permission to construct your day. But there's a profound transformation that occurs when you consciously feed your mind strength, vision, and crystal clear intention. You begin to forge a mindset that doesn't just survive, it builds empires. If you found value in these morning declarations, hit that subscribe button now and join our community of intentional thinkers who are transforming their lives one morning at a time. This journey isn't about massive overnight changes. The real power lies in those small, precise mental victories you win every single morning. Your destiny isn't shaped through one dramatic leap, but through daily mental discipline that compounds over time. It's the quiet decision to override the negative thought before it takes root. It's the commitment to replace "I can't" with "I already am." Behind the scenes of every great achievement is this fundamental truth. When you consistently tell yourself you are focused, you literally become focused. When you repeatedly affirm that you are powerful, your actions begin to Align with that declaration. This isn't some mystical revelation. It's simply cause and effect operating at the level of your consciousness. The mind doesn't argue with what you repeatedly declare. It doesn't question your internal narrative. It simply accepts it, absorbs it, and begins to enforce it. That's the impact of consistent morning affirmations. Once your mind accepts strength as your default state, your actions follow without hesitation or doubt. That's when real results appear. That's when genuine transformation begins. And here's what most people miss about this process. It works from the inside out, not the outside in. Most people make the critical mistake of waiting for external circumstances to change before they adjust their internal dialogue. They say, when I get the promotion, then I'll feel confident, or once I have more money, then I'll feel abundant. But this approach has the sequence backward. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding how this mental discipline creates a foundation for everything else in your life. The decisions you make in those first waking moments ripple throughout your entire day. They determine not just how you feel, but how you interpret events, how you respond to challenges, and ultimately, the results you create. Remember, this isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about establishing your mental framework before engaging with whatever the day brings. It's about creating an internal environment where solutions can flourish and obstacles can be transformed into stepping stones. If any of this resonates with your own morning experience, write "Blueprints Activated" in the comments below. What makes this morning practice so powerful is understanding a fundamental principle about your consciousness. Your mind accepts and enforces what you repeatedly declare. Think of your mind as the most sophisticated computer ever created, constantly running programs in the background. The difference? You get to write the code through your consistent declarations. The remarkable revelation here is that your mind doesn't argue with these declarations, it simply absorbs them. There's no committee inside your head debating whether you're truly confident or capable. When you consistently affirm something with conviction, your subconscious mind begins integrating it as truth. This is the invisible architecture of transformation. Once your mind accepts strength as your default state, not as something you need to achieve, but as something you already are, your actions naturally align without hesitation or second-guessing. Your decisions become more decisive, your responses more assured, and your overall presence more magnetic. All because you've reprogrammed the internal operating system that governs everything you do. The journey from intention to manifestation follows this precise sequence. Repeated declaration leads to subconscious acceptance, which creates new neural pathways, which then guide your actions and decisions automatically. This is how change happens from the inside out, rather than waiting for external circumstances to shift. At the core of this practice is a profound awakening. This life is yours to build or break. Most people live as though they're passengers in their own story, waiting for motivation to strike like lightning or luck to change their circumstances. But the mindset masters throughout history, from philosophers to entrepreneurs to spiritual leaders, understood a crucial distinction. They didn't wait for the perfect moment or the right feeling to take action. Instead, they reminded themselves daily that they controlled their direction through their thoughts. This isn't merely positive thinking, it's strategic mental conditioning. Every great builder, every visionary leader, every pioneer who redefined what's possible became what they consistently told themselves they already were. Consider the implications of this understanding. If you wake up every morning and declare with unwavering certainty, "I'm disciplined, focused, and unstoppable," your mind begins constructing evidence to support this reality. It filters your experiences through this lens, highlighting opportunities that align with this declaration, while minimizing distractions that don't. The essence of personal sovereignty lies in this daily practice, the conscious decision to author your own narrative rather than inheriting someone else's script. When you declare, "This life is mine," you're not making a statement of ownership as much as accepting a responsibility of authorship. If this concept of mental conditioning speaks to you on a deeper level, type "I am the author" in the comments below. Now, I want to explore the second powerful morning declaration that can fundamentally reshape your day. Discipline is my language. Vision is my compass. This perspective shifts your entire approach to communication, both with yourself and with the world around you. When you truly understand the architecture of achievement, you realize that the words you use aren't just descriptive, they're creative. They literally shape your reality. This is why speaking power into your life becomes non-negotiable. Notice the difference in energy between saying, "I'll try to finish this project," versus "I will complete this project." Feel the vibrational shift between "maybe things will work out" and "it's already mine, I just need to claim it." This isn't mere semantics, it's the backbone of manifestation. The universe doesn't respond to hesitation, it responds to declaration. When you reject weak language like "maybe," "hopefully," or "I'll try," you're not just changing your vocabulary, you're rewiring your neural pathways to expect success rather than question it. Subscribe to the channel right now if you're ready to take your morning mindset to the next level and receive more powerful insights that can change the trajectory of your life. Behind every breakthrough lies this revelation. What you consistently declare becomes your default reality. But here's where many stumble on their journey. They mistake declaration for completion. The watershed moment in personal development comes when you understand that speaking power means nothing without aligned action. Action is the true test of belief. If I claim to want greatness, but my daily habits reflect laziness, I'm not just failing to achieve, I'm lying to myself. This internal incongruence creates a spiritual friction that manifests as anxiety, procrastination, and self-doubt. The master key to inner peace is simple but demanding. Make your speech and steps align perfectly. What you think determines where you go, but what you do determines what you become. This isn't philosophy, it's practical psychology. When your thoughts and actions are in harmony, you experience a state of flow that eliminates internal resistance. Suddenly, discipline doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like alignment. The revelation that transformed my own journey was recognizing that there's no room for excuses in the economy of achievement. Every moment spent justifying inaction is a moment stolen from your potential. Every distraction entertained is energy diverted from your vision. When you declare "discipline is my language," you're making a commitment to ruthless honesty about where your time and focus are truly going. Your morning declaration becomes a benchmark against which you measure each decision throughout your day. Does this action align with what I claimed this morning? This simple question becomes a powerful filter that eliminates countless distractions and time wasters from your life. The master practitioners of this approach understand that discipline isn't just about doing difficult things. It's about speaking a language of certainty and then letting your actions provide the translation. It's about refusing to negotiate with the part of you that prefers comfort over growth. If you recognize this principle at work in your own life, type "language aligned" in the comments below. When we pair discipline as our language with vision as our compass, we discover a profound truth about time itself. All you ever truly have is this moment. The past exists only in memory, the future only in imagination, but the present moment, this is where your power lives. This is why one of the most transformative morning declarations is simply, "I own the present moment." Completely, While you can't change yesterday, its mistakes and missed opportunities are sealed, and you can't guarantee tomorrow. You can absolutely own the now. This perspective shift creates an immediate sense of agency. Rather than being pulled into regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, you plant your consciousness firmly in the only moment where change is possible. The revelation that has liberated countless lives is this: by taking ownership of enough present moments, you eventually own your future. It's not some mystical process. It's the natural accumulation of intentional decisions made in real time. Every time you fully engage with the task at hand, every time you refuse to let your mind wander into unproductive territories, you're crafting your reality brick by brick. This mindset eliminates the victim narrative that keeps so many people trapped. You're not helplessly responding to circumstances beyond your control. You're actively creating outcomes through your present awareness and choices. The victimhood mentality waits for conditions to change. The creator mindset changes conditions through present moment mastery. This brings us to another crucial morning declaration that dismantles one of the greatest obstacles to achievement. I face fear rather than obeying it. When you examine the architecture of most unfulfilled lives, you'll find fear as the primary building material. Not because fear itself is so powerful, but because of how people relate to it. The breakthrough insight is this: fear only has power when you submit to it. It's not the presence of fear that determines your outcomes, it's your response to it. Victims wait for fear to subside before taking action. Builders act while fear is still present, understanding that action itself is the antidote. When you challenge fear directly, something remarkable happens. It shrinks. When you push through it repeatedly, it eventually dies. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary accomplishment is this simple truth: the person wasn't fearless, they just refused to be fear's servant. They recognized that the sensation of fear is just information, not a command to retreat. This perspective transforms fear from a barrier into a compass, pointing precisely toward the growth your soul is seeking. Success isn't reserved for the naturally talented, the extraordinarily lucky, or the uniquely privileged. It's earned by those who have mastered their relationship with fear, the focused, the relentless, the self-directed. These individuals don't experience less fear. They've simply developed a different relationship with it. They see fear as the price of admission to an extraordinary life, not a reason to remain ordinary. This journey of facing fear, rather than obeying it, creates a momentum that transforms your entire being. Each time you move toward what frightens you, you reinforce the identity of someone who isn't ruled by comfort, but guided by purpose. If you've experienced the liberation that comes from facing your fears directly, share "fear faced" in the comments below. Let me take you deeper into the practical application of this morning mindset. When you declare, "Discipline is my language," you naturally begin building habits that perfectly align with your vision. This alignment creates an unstoppable momentum in your life. Most people make a fundamental error in their approach to achievement. They try to transform their bodies before training their minds, chase external goals before sharpening their internal focus. The master insight that creates sustainable transformation is this sequence: train your mind first, then your body will follow. Sharpen your thoughts first, and your goals will materialize almost effortlessly. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the blueprint followed by every person who has achieved extraordinary results. The inner landscape always precedes and determines the outer reality. What separates the exceptional from the average isn't talent or opportunity. It's this profound shift in perception, viewing obstacles not as barriers but as catalysts for growth. When challenges arise, most people ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But those who have mastered the morning mindset ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" This subtle reframing changes everything. The obstacles aren't happening to you, they're happening for you. Every setback, every unexpected difficulty contains within it the seeds of an equivalent or greater benefit, but only for those who have trained themselves to see it. Your morning declaration conditions your mind to automatically search for the opportunity hidden within every challenge, rather than being defeated by its appearance. This brings us to perhaps the most liberating morning declaration. I am led by purpose, not feelings. Think about how many decisions you've postponed or abandoned simply because you didn't feel like it in the moment. The breakthrough realization is that your feelings are unreliable guides. They fluctuate based on countless variables, from sleep quality to blood sugar to social media consumption. When you decide to be led by purpose rather than feelings, you establish an unwavering North Star that guides your actions regardless of emotional weather. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or denying their importance. It means refusing to let them dictate your choices. It means understanding the pivotal distinction between acknowledging emotions and surrendering to them. The revelation that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys is learning to convert pressure into performance. Most people break under pressure. They see it as something to avoid. But pressure, properly understood, is simply energy that needs direction. When channeled correctly, it becomes the fuel for exceptional achievement rather than the cause of breakdown. The mastery of this principle requires moving with intent regardless of mood. On days when motivation is high, you execute. On days when motivation is nowhere to be found, you still execute, because you're guided by something far more reliable than fleeting emotional states. Your reality ultimately responds not to hope or wishes, but to command, to clear, decisive action taken despite emotional resistance. If you've experienced the power of being guided by purpose rather than feelings, share purpose-driven in the comments section. The ultimate morning declaration that anchors all the others is, I take full responsibility as the architect of my life. This is where the transformation truly begins, the moment you stop outsourcing accountability for your circumstances and claim complete ownership of your journey. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that you don't need permission to rise or approval to build your vision. Most people live in a perpetual waiting state, waiting for validation, waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for someone to notice their potential. But the architects of extraordinary lives recognize a fundamental truth. The only ingredients necessary for transformation are the discipline to tell yourself the truth and the courage to live as if it's already real. This perspective shift creates an immediate sense of sovereignty. You stop being a passive observer of your life and step fully into the role of creator. The blueprint isn't handed to you, you design it. The materials aren't provided, you gather them. The construction timeline isn't set by others, you establish it. This responsibility might initially feel heavy, but it's actually the lightest burden you'll ever carry because it eliminates the weight of victimhood completely. Now, I want to introduce you to the third powerful morning declaration that builds upon this foundation. Today is my opportunity to dominate, not hesitate. This mindset revolutionizes how you approach each day from the moment you open your eyes. Instead of viewing mornings as simple restarts or blank slates, you recognize them as proving grounds, opportunities to demonstrate commitment to the vision you've established. The hidden truth that separates extraordinary achievers from everyone else is understanding that hesitation is the silent killer of dreams. One pause, one delay, one moment of indecision can cost you momentum that might take days to rebuild. Most people don't fail because of lack of ability. They fail because they hesitate at critical junctures where decisive action would have carried them forward. When you declare each morning is a proving ground, you enter the day with a completely different energy. You're not just going through motions, you're actively demonstrating who you are through immediate, purposeful action. While others spend their mornings in indecision, scrolling through distractions, or delaying important work, you move with precision and intention from the first moment. This isn't about being busy, it's about being deliberate. The revelation that transformed countless journeys is understanding that when you bend your will to the day will bend to your will. This isn't mystical thinking. It's the natural consequence of directing your focus and energy with such clarity that resistance naturally diminishes. Behind every extraordinary achievement is this simple truth. The day responds not to intentions but to actions. Hesitation surrenders your power, while immediate execution claims it. Those first minutes after waking are when you establish whether you'll be the architect of the day or merely its inhabitant. If you've experienced the power of treating each morning as a proving ground, share architect mode in the comments below. When we embrace each morning as a proving ground, we naturally shift our focus away from external competition to the only contest that truly matters: the gap between who you are today and who you could become. This represents a profound paradigm shift in how we measure success. Most people exhaust themselves trying to outperform others, constantly looking sideways instead of forward. They celebrate when someone else fails, rather than when they themselves grow. But the morning declaration, "I compete with my potential, not with others," liberates you from this exhausting comparison trap. It redirects your energy toward the most worthy adversary you'll ever face, your untapped capacity. This isn't about ignoring what others accomplish. It's about recognizing that their journey isn't yours. Their pace isn't yours. Their destination isn't yours. The breakthrough insight that transforms ordinary achievers into extraordinary ones is this: what others do is fundamentally irrelevant to your personal evolution. When you wake up declaring that you compete only with your potential, you enter a realm where external validation loses its power. You're no longer derailed by others' opinions or accomplishments because your measuring stick is internal. It's the gap between your current self and your possible self. This perspective creates a profound sense of sovereignty over your journey. You don't need to wait for others to fail for you to succeed. You don't need to diminish others' light to make yours shine brighter. You simply need to focus relentlessly on fulfilling your own commitments, day after day, regardless of what anyone else is doing. The revelation that accompanies this mindset is understanding that I refuse to let time pass while sitting in indecision. Most people don't realize how much of their precious life energy evaporates in the limbo of indecision. They contemplate, analyze, weigh options, seek opinions, and ultimately delay action until the window of opportunity has closed. When you declare each morning that action is power and hesitation is surrender, you create an internal environment that naturally favors decisive movement. You recognize that the clock ticks whether you move or not, and you refuse to surrender those irreplaceable moments to paralysis. The hidden truth behind every meaningful breakthrough is this: motivation is a myth when treated as a prerequisite for action. Waiting to feel motivated before taking action is like waiting for the tide to rise before learning to swim. The masters of morning mindset understand that you must train your mind to act regardless of feelings, especially when you don't want to. This is where the real edge is built. Not in the moments when action feels easy and natural, but precisely in those moments when every fiber of your being resists movement. When you push through that resistance, you're not just accomplishing a task, you're forging an identity. You're becoming someone who acts despite emotional weather, not because of it. If you've experienced the power of pushing through resistance when you least felt like taking action, type "resistance conquered" in the comments below. This mindset of action over hesitation naturally leads to one of the most powerful declarations you can make each morning: While others overthink, I execute. This statement creates an immediate competitive advantage in a world paralyzed by analysis. Most people get caught in what psychologists call the overthinking trap, a cycle where excessive analysis becomes a substitute for actual progress. The revelation that separates extraordinary achievers from everyone else is understanding that clarity comes from action, not contemplation. You don't think your way to crystal clear vision, you act your way there. Each step reveals the next step in a way that no amount of planning ever could. While the masses are scrolling through endless content, you're sharpening your skills. While they're wishing for different circumstances, you're working to create them. The transformation occurs when you recognize that every single move you make must bring you measurably closer to your vision. This doesn't mean blind action, it means strategic execution. You're not just busy, you're productive in the direction of your highest priorities. This distinction creates a filter through which you evaluate every potential action. Does this move me closer to where I'm going, or is it just motion without progress? Behind the scenes of every breakthrough achievement is this fundamental truth. Domination doesn't mean doing more things. It means doing what matters with absolute power. Most people disperse their energy across dozens of tasks, feeling productive while actually diluting their impact. True. Domination comes from laser focus on the vital few actions that create disproportionate results. The paradigm shift that creates extraordinary outcomes is learning to eliminate distractions and weak thoughts before they can take root. This preemptive mental discipline is what sets apart the elite performers in any field. They don't just manage distractions, they actively hunt them down and eliminate them before they can hijack attention. They don't try to resist weak thoughts once they've taken hold. They install mental filters that prevent those thoughts from gaining traction in the first place. This approach to domination requires a level of mental clarity that most never develop. It means having the courage to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It means understanding that your energy is finite and treating it as your most precious resource. It means recognizing that in a world of endless notifications and interruptions, the ability to maintain focused attention is perhaps the ultimate competitive advantage. When you declare each morning that domination means doing what matters with power, you're committing to a completely different standard of performance. You're rejecting the modern addiction to busyness in favor of the timeless pursuit of mastery. You're choosing depth over breadth, impact over impression, and results over activity. This mindset creates a profound shift in how you experience your day. Instead of feeling scattered and overwhelmed by endless tasks, you move with singular purpose through the vital few actions that actually move the needle. If you felt the difference between busy work and focused power, type precision over volume in the comments below. This precise focus on what truly matters reveals another transformative morning declaration. I am the force and the push I've been waiting for. This statement confronts one of the most common delusions that keeps people stuck, the belief that motivation, opportunity, or success will arrive from some external source. The awakening that changes everything is realizing that you are simultaneously the seeker and the solution. Most people exist in a perpetual waiting state, waiting for the perfect mentor, the right opportunity, the ideal circumstances, or that mythical burst of sustained motivation. But behind the scenes of every extraordinary journey is this revelation. You've been waiting for something that was always inside you. You are both the sign and the catalyst you've been seeking. The world operates according to immutable laws. It doesn't respond to wishes, hopes, or intentions. It moves exclusively for those who apply force through consistent, focused action. It yields only to those who refuse to stay still, When you declare each morning that you are the force you've been waiting for, you eliminate the dependency on external factors that keeps most people permanently stalled. This perspective creates an immediate shift in your relationship with time. Instead of waiting for conditions to align perfectly before taking action, you recognize that your movement itself creates the conditions. Your action generates the momentum that makes everything else possible. The inspiration doesn't come first. It follows decisive movement. This naturally leads to another powerful morning declaration. I don't wait for perfection. I move, adjust, and improve on the way. The liberation in this mindset is understanding that opportunities rarely arrive at convenient moments. They don't wait patiently for you to feel completely ready. The window opens briefly, and those who hesitate because of imperfect conditions miss it entirely. The breakthrough insight that separates extraordinary achievers from the masses is learning to act without delay, then adjust and refine while in motion. Imagine trying to steer a stationary car. It's impossible. The steering only works when the vehicle is moving. The same principle applies to your journey. Clarity comes through action, not before it. This approach requires embracing a fundamentally different relationship with failure and difficulty. When you fall, you don't question your path or ability. You simply get up. When the challenge intensifies, you don't retreat. You get harder, matching and exceeding the resistance. When progress feels slower than expected, you don't become discouraged. You push faster, understanding that pace is adjustable through effort. The revelation that transforms ordinary journeys into extraordinary odysseys is this: no resistance, no obstacle, no challenge can outlast a truly relentless spirit. It's not about having more resources than others. It's about becoming more resourceful. It's not about avoiding difficulties. It's about developing the resilience to move through them with unwavering determination. If you've experienced moments where you stopped waiting and became the force in your own life, share self-propelled in the comments below. Now I want to introduce you to our fourth powerful morning declaration that builds upon everything we've explored so far. I am unstoppable when I decide to be. This mindset transcends mere motivation. It's about making an irrevocable inner decision that fundamentally changes how you navigate the world. When you embody this declaration, you naturally carry a presence that comes from knowing your purpose. This presence isn't manufactured. It's the authentic radiation of someone who has achieved internal clarity. Most people enter rooms seeking validation, approval, or attention from others. But there's a profound energetic shift when you walk in carrying the certainty of your purpose. The revelation that transforms how others perceive you is this: confidence doesn't come from seeking attention, but from absolute clarity about who you are and what you're building. People can sense the difference between someone who needs external validation and someone who is internally anchored. This presence isn't about dominating conversations or demanding recognition. It's about the quiet certainty that emanates from someone who knows exactly where they're headed. This perspective creates a liberation from one of the most common traps, the tendency to diminish yourself to make others comfortable. Most people unconsciously shrink their light, dampen their enthusiasm, or soften their ambitions to avoid triggering insecurity in others. But when you declare each morning that you carry purpose-driven presence, you give yourself permission to shine at full wattage, understanding that your authentic power isn't a threat but an inspiration. The breakthrough insight that changes how you interact with the world is understanding that true domination means total control over myself. Most people misunderstand domination as control over external circumstances or other people, but the masters of morning mindset recognize that the only domain you can truly control is your internal landscape, your reactions, your discipline, and your consistency. This shift creates an immediate sense of sovereignty. Instead of being ruled by moods, external triggers, or temporary emotions, you're governed exclusively by mission. You don't negotiate with the part of yourself that prefers comfort over growth. You don't make excuses when you feel tired or unmotivated. You recognize that being ruled by fleeting emotions is the ultimate surrender of power. The transformation occurs when you understand that self-mastery is the foundation for everything else you want to achieve. Every external result, from physical fitness to financial success to relationship quality, is ultimately a reflection of your relationship with yourself. When you declare each morning that you are ruled by mission rather than moods, you elevate your standard for internal consistency to a level most never reach. If you've experienced moments where your unwavering decision created unstoppable momentum, share "decision made" in the comments below. This inner decision to be unstoppable naturally leads to a profound realization about authorship. I hold the pen that writes my story. This isn't just a poetic metaphor. It's a fundamental truth about human potential. Every moment presents a crossroads between hesitation and action. If you hesitate, the page of your life stays blank, filled with possibilities, but empty of actual experience. But when you take decisive action, you begin filling those pages with a legacy that extends far beyond your physical presence. The watershed moment in personal development comes when you truly internalize that you're not just a character in someone else's narrative. You're the primary author of your own. Most people unconsciously surrender the pen to external influences, societal expectations, others' opinions, or random circumstances. But the revelation that changes everything is recognizing your absolute authority over the story you're creating. This perspective creates an immediate shift in how you approach daily decisions. You're no longer simply responding to what happens. You're actively creating what happens next. You're not here to observe life or comment on it. You're here to make your mark through tangible results and unwavering discipline. The blank page isn't intimidating, it's inviting. It's the canvas awaiting your unique expression. The journey of authorship requires understanding that meaning isn't found, it's made. Purpose isn't discovered like a hidden treasure. It's forged through consistent, intentional action. When you declare each morning that you hold the pen, you accept both the freedom and responsibility that comes with creating your narrative. This naturally connects to another powerful morning declaration. A stronger version of me awaits at the end of today's road. This mindset creates an immediate sense of possibility and direction. Most people view each day as an isolated unit, a standalone experience with little connection to their overall trajectory. But the breakthrough insight is recognizing that every single day is actually a bridge connecting your current self to your potential self. The transformation occurs when you understand that every choice you make either brings you closer to your potential or pushes you further away. There is no neutral position. Each action, each decision, each moment of focus or distraction is literally a vote for the person you want to become. The masters of morning mindset recognize that identity isn't static. It's constantly being shaped by these accumulated decisions. This perspective creates an entirely different relationship with daily choices. That extra rep in the gym isn't just about physical fitness, it's a vote for discipline. That moment of choosing focused work over distraction isn't just about productivity, it's a vote for mastery. That difficult conversation you don't avoid isn't just about resolving conflict, it's a vote for courage. You begin to see every action through the lens of identity formation. If you've experienced the powerful realization that your daily choices are literally creating your future self, share Identity Architect in the comments below. This identity-focused approach leads naturally to the declaration, I build, push, lead and sharpen because today is mine. This statement represents a fundamental reclamation of your time and energy. Most people begin their days in a reactive state, responding to notifications, scrolling through social media, or immediately diving into others' demands. But the transformative insight is recognizing that these precious morning hours represent your greatest opportunity for strategic advancement. The awakening that changes everything is understanding that today, this specific day with its unique opportunities, belongs exclusively to you. It's not owned by your employer, your social media accounts, or even your loved ones. While you may choose to dedicate portions of it to various responsibilities, the fundamental ownership remains yours. This perspective creates an immediate sense of sovereignty over how you allocate your most precious resource, your time. When you declare each morning that today is yours, you naturally become more discerning about what you allow into your mental and physical space. You stop wasting those golden morning hours on aimless activities or distractions that drain your energy without moving you forward. You take complete ownership of your schedule and refuse to surrender it to weakness, distraction, or the urgent but unimportant demands that constantly arise. This ownership mindset reveals perhaps the most powerful aspect of morning declarations. Nothing can hold me back once I fully commit. The revelation that transforms ordinary journeys into extraordinary odysseys is understanding the profound difference between partial and complete commitment. Most people live in the purgatory of maybe. They're interested in success, but not committed to it. They want results, but leave room for retreat. The watershed moment occurs when you flip that internal switch from maybe to must. In that moment, everything changes. The doubts that previously paralyzed you don't disappear. They simply lose their influence over your decisions. The distractions that previously derailed you don't vanish. They just lose their power to pull you off course. The fears that kept you playing small don't evaporate. They just no longer determine your actions. This perspective creates an immediate shift in how you approach challenges. You stop negotiating with the part of yourself that wants to quit when things get difficult. You remove the back door that allows for easy retreat when resistance appears. You burn the bridges that would allow you to return to old patterns when transformation becomes uncomfortable. The breakthrough insight that separates extraordinary achievers from everyone else is recognizing that true commitment isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's not something you feel occasionally when motivation is high. It's something you decide once and enforce daily, regardless of emotional weather. When you make that irrevocable decision that nothing can hold you back, you eliminate all options except forward motion. If you've experienced the unmistakable power that comes from making a non-negotiable commitment to your vision, share "fully committed" in the comments section. This insight about commitment leads us to one of the most liberating truths in personal development. Most people fail not from incapability, but from indecision. This revelation completely transforms how you understand success and failure. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that extraordinary achievement requires extraordinary talent, but behind the scenes of nearly every breakthrough is a much simpler reality. The difference between success and failure rarely comes down to ability. It almost always comes down to commitment. Think about the graveyard of unrealized dreams that most people accumulate over a lifetime. Those unfulfilled ambitions didn't die because of lack of capacity. They perished from lack of decision. They remained in the purgatory of someday and maybe until they eventually faded entirely. The masters of morning mindset understand this trap and deliberately avoid it by removing all escape routes from their journey. The transformation begins when you eliminate excuses before they even have a chance to form. Most people create elaborate justifications for why they couldn't achieve their goals. time constraints, resource limitations, lack of support, or unfavorable circumstances. But the extraordinary few make the paradigm-shifting decision to remove these mental escape hatches entirely. They don't negotiate with the part of themselves that wants an easy way out. This perspective naturally transitions us to our fifth powerful morning declaration. Discipline, not emotion, controls my day. This mindset represents the ultimate form of personal sovereignty, the absolute refusal to let temporary feelings dictate permanent decisions. The breakthrough insight that changes everything is declaring, I've eliminated all options except forward motion. When you wake up having already eliminated retreat as a possibility, you enter the day with completely different energy. Most people wake up subconsciously preserving their right to quit if things get uncomfortable. But the revelation that transforms ordinary journeys into extraordinary odysseys is understanding that when you commit fully to an outcome, the battle is already half won before it begins. The hidden truth behind every meaningful achievement is this: hope is not a strategy. Wishing for results creates nothing but frustration. The masters of morning mindset don't hope for outcomes. They create them through persistent, consistent action, regardless of emotional weather. They understand that results respond to execution, not intention. This approach requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to challenges. Instead of asking, "Can this be done?" you simply ask, "How will I do this?" The first question leaves room for doubt and retreat. The second assumes completion and focuses exclusively on method. When you eliminate all options except forward motion, your mind stops wasting energy on whether to continue and focuses entirely on how to continue most effectively. If you've experienced the clarity and power that comes from eliminating all options except forward motion, share "no retreat" in the comments below. When you embrace discipline as your controlling force rather than emotion, you discover one of life's most liberating truths. The world yields to those who pursue with everything they have. This isn't motivational hyperbole. It's a fundamental principle of achievement that operates regardless of industry, background, or circumstance. The world doesn't respond to wishes, intentions, or sporadic effort. It moves exclusively for those who bring relentless, focused energy to their pursuits. The breakthrough insight that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary is understanding that permission and reassurance are luxuries you cannot afford to seek. Most people spend precious energy asking, "Am I ready?" or "Do I have approval?" or "Is this the right time?" But these questions drain momentum before it can even build. The masters of morning mindset recognize that locking in on your vision with unwavering focus is the only approach that yields meaningful results. This perspective creates an immediate shift in how you process information. Instead of being constantly derailed by every opinion, news story, or setback, you develop the capacity to drown out noise that doesn't serve your purpose. This isn't about ignorance, it's about selective attention. You amplify what moves you forward and minimize what holds you back. This filtering mechanism is perhaps the most underrated superpower in achievement. The catalyst for this disciplined pursuit is consistent, purposeful action, not sporadic bursts of effort followed by extended rest, but steady, persistent movement in the direction of your vision. The revelation that transforms ordinary careers into extraordinary legacies is understanding that consistency compounds over time. Small, disciplined actions performed daily eventually create results that appear miraculous to outside observers. This disciplined approach naturally leads to another profound morning declaration. Legendary achievements come from choosing power under pressure. When you study the architecture of breakthrough accomplishments across history, you discover this common foundation. They all emerged from someone who chose discipline precisely when surrounded by legitimate reasons to quit. The hidden truth behind every extraordinary outcome is that the defining moment wasn't the public victory. It was the private decision to continue when everything and everyone suggested retreat. It was choosing focus when distraction seemed justified. It was selecting discipline when emotions screamed for comfort. These invisible decisions, made when no one was watching, ultimately created the visible results that everyone celebrates. What separates history makers from history observers is this fundamental difference in relating to pressure. Most people view pressure as a signal to retreat, a warning to reduce expectations or postpone action. But the revelation that changes everything is recognizing that pressure is actually the crucible where ordinary potential is transformed into extraordinary capability. It's not something to avoid, it's something to leverage. If you've ever experienced the transformation that occurs when you choose discipline despite emotional resistance, share Pressure Transformed in the comments below. This perspective on discipline naturally reveals another profound truth. I don't need perfect conditions. I need decision and persistence. This revelation completely transforms your relationship with circumstances. Most people are constantly waiting for ideal conditions before taking meaningful action. The perfect amount of time, energy, resources, support, or inspiration. But the journey of mastery is paved with this insight. Success has never required perfect circumstances, only relentless determination. When you examine the backstory of any extraordinary achievement, you'll find someone who decided to move forward despite imperfect and often actively hostile conditions. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that the ability to decide and persist through difficulty is infinitely more valuable than raw talent or perfect opportunity. This single attribute, persistent action regardless of circumstances, creates results that appear almost miraculous to outside observers. This mindset creates an immediate shift in how you approach obstacles. Instead of seeing difficulties as signals to pause or retreat, you recognize them as the precise conditions needed to develop uncommon capability. The transformation occurs when you stop asking, "Is this the perfect time?" and start declaring, "This is the only time I have." This perspective eliminates wasted energy spent waiting for ideal conditions that rarely, if ever, appear. Perhaps the most liberating morning declaration within this mindset is, "Ready is a trap. There is only the decision to start." This statement confronts one of the most common delusions that keeps potential locked away, the belief that you must feel completely prepared before beginning anything significant. The hidden truth behind every meaningful journey is that readiness isn't a prerequisite for action. It's the result of action. Most people are caught in the paradox of preparation, believing they need to feel ready before starting, while not realizing that the feeling of readiness comes primarily from having already started. The masters of morning mindset bypass this trap entirely. They don't wait to feel prepared. They begin now and develop capability through direct engagement. They understand that readiness is developed in motion, not in contemplation. The watershed moment in personal development comes when you truly internalize that the perfect moment is a mirage that has kept countless dreams permanently deferred. It simply doesn't exist. What exists instead is this moment, the only one you're guaranteed, and your decision to use it purposefully. The morning declaration, "Ready is a trap," liberates you from the paralysis of preparation and propels you into immediate, meaningful action. This perspective shift creates an immediate change in how you begin new challenges. Instead of spending endless time researching, planning, and preparing, activities that often serve as sophisticated forms of procrastination, you take the first concrete step immediately. You recognize that clarity comes through engagement, not analysis. The revelation that transforms journeys is understanding that the only thing that truly matters is the resolve to keep going once you've started. If you've experienced the liberation of starting before feeling completely ready, share action first in the comments below. When you fully embody the declaration that discipline controls your day, you experience one of the most liberating revelations possible. Once I decide nothing will stop me, distractions fade away. This isn't motivational exaggeration, it's a neurological reality. When you commit unconditionally to your path, something remarkable happens in your perception. The critics whose opinions once paralyzed you suddenly seem irrelevant. The past failures that used to define your identity lose their emotional grip. The perceived weaknesses that limited your vision no longer determine your actions. The transformation occurs not because these elements disappear from your life, they're still present, but because they no longer command your attention. The mind can only focus intently on a limited number of stimuli at once. When you lock completely onto your destination with unwavering commitment, these distractions naturally fade to the background. All that remains in your field of awareness is forward momentum. The next step, the immediate action, the present opportunity. This single-minded focus represents the pinnacle of personal sovereignty. Most people live at the mercy of whatever captures their attention: news headlines, others' opinions, social media updates, or past regrets. But the masters of morning mindset understand the profound power of directed attention. They don't try to eliminate distractions. They simply refuse to grant them significance. This perspective shift creates an immediate sense of control over your mental landscape. This disciplined mindset naturally transitions us to our sixth powerful morning declaration. Every challenge is a chance to prove my power. This perspective completely transforms your relationship with difficulty. While most people pray for an easier path, the masters of morning mindset understand that being unstoppable means continuing regardless of conditions. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that true resilience isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about persisting through it. Anyone can move forward when conditions are favorable, energy is high, and motivation is strong. The defining characteristic of extraordinary achievement is continuing when energy is depleted, when fatigue is screaming for rest, and when every fiber of your being wants to surrender to comfort. Behind the scenes of every meaningful breakthrough is this hidden truth. The most significant growth occurs precisely when you push despite low energy. The most valuable strength is built specifically when you rise despite exhaustion. The most powerful habits are formed exactly when you show up despite comfort, beckoning you to stay home. These aren't unfortunate circumstances to be avoided. They're the exact conditions required to forge uncommon capability. This perspective creates an immediate shift in how you view challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" you begin asking, "What is this difficulty developing in me?" You stop seeing obstacles as punishments to endure and start recognizing them as opportunities to develop qualities you couldn't access any other way. The morning declaration. Every challenge is a chance to prove my power transforms your relationship with resistance itself. If you've experienced the transformation that occurs when you persist through difficulty rather than avoiding it, share Resilience Forged in the comments below. This perspective on challenges naturally leads to one of the most liberating declarations possible. My decisions define me, not my circumstances. This insight completely transforms how you relate to your environment. Most people live as though their external conditions determine their identity and capabilities. They believe they need the right background, resources, connections, or luck to achieve extraordinary results. But the revelation that changes everything is understanding that your circumstances have never been the primary factor in your outcomes. Your decisions have. The evidence for this truth appears throughout human history. People with every conceivable advantage, wealth, education, connections, talent, often achieve Nothing remarkable because their decisions lack commitment and consistency. Meanwhile, individuals facing overwhelming obstacles, poverty, disability, discrimination, trauma, sometimes achieve extraordinary breakthroughs because they've made different internal decisions about who they are and what they're capable of creating. The transformation occurs when you stop viewing your circumstances as the determining factor in your story. Your upbringing, your financial situation, your relationship, status, your health challenges, none of these elements define what's possible for you. They simply create the landscape through which you navigate. The journey of awakening begins when you recognize that the difference between achievement and stagnation has never been about external conditions, but internal commitment. This perspective creates an immediate shift in personal responsibility. You stop attributing outcomes to factors beyond your control and start recognizing the immense power of your choices. The declaration, "My decisions define me," isn't about ignoring genuine challenges or privileges. It's about reclaiming your agency regardless of where you find yourself on that spectrum. Now I want to go even deeper into what this mindset creates in your daily experience. When you fully embrace challenges as opportunities to prove your power, you naturally make another profound declaration. I've chosen relentless forward motion as my standard. This statement represents the ultimate commitment to your vision. Most people allow their standard of performance to fluctuate based on convenience, mood, or external feedback. But the masters of morning mindset establish a non-negotiable standard of forward movement. The revelation that transforms ordinary journeys into extraordinary odysseys is recognizing that you've invested too much to turn back now. You've sacrificed too much comfort, invested too much energy, and developed too much momentum to play small or abandon your path. This perspective creates an immediate sense of responsibility toward your future self. The morning declaration, "I've chosen relentless forward motion," eliminates the constant renegotiation that most people engage in daily. This commitment to completion becomes your default operating system. You no longer waste mental energy debating whether to continue. That decision was made once and enforced daily. The only question that remains is how to move forward most effectively. This singular focus creates an unusual clarity that most never experience. When you remove the option of retreat, your mind naturally becomes more resourceful, more determined, and more solution-oriented. If you've made the decision that your vision is worth seeing through to completion no matter what obstacles arise, share "decided to finish" in the comments below. This commitment to completion reveals perhaps the most empowering morning declaration possible. I am the force, the miracle, and the storm. This statement represents the ultimate reclamation of your personal power. Most people exist in a perpetual waiting state, waiting for rescue, waiting for the right mentor, waiting for perfect circumstances, or waiting for divine intervention. But the revelation that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys is understanding that you are simultaneously the seeker and the solution. The awakening that changes everything is recognizing that the power you've been waiting for has been within you all along. You don't need external rescue, you need internal revolution. You are the force that drives your progress, the miracle that creates transformation, and the storm that breaks through barriers. This perspective creates an immediate shift in responsibility and agency. You stop outsourcing your evolution to external factors and claim complete ownership of your journey. Behind the scenes of every breakthrough achievement is this hidden truth. No wall is high enough, no doubt is deep enough, and no setback is powerful enough to break someone who has made the unshakable decision to continue. These obstacles aren't defeating you. They're revealing your capacity for resilience. They're not happening to you. They're happening for you. They're creating the exact conditions required to develop uncommon capability. This mindset naturally leads us to our seventh and perhaps most confronting morning declaration. Excuses are lies, execution is truth. This perspective completely transforms how you relate to challenges and setbacks. When you declare each morning that I live by principles, not by feelings, you establish a non-negotiable standard for your actions regardless of emotional weather. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that discipline means consistently choosing long-term goals over temporary emotions. Most people make the fundamental error of letting their daily mood determine their actions. They work intensely when motivation is high, then collapse when it inevitably fades. They pursue their mission with passion on good days, then abandon it entirely on difficult ones. This emotional inconsistency creates a permanently fragmented journey. The transformation occurs when you recognize that your feelings were never meant to be your compass. They were meant to be weather passing through your awareness. Sometimes stormy, sometimes sunny, but never the determining factor in your direction. Your principles, the standards and values you've established for yourself, become your true north, regardless of emotional fluctuations. This perspective creates an immediate shift in daily decision-making. You stop asking, how do I feel about this? And start asking, what does my commitment require here? You refuse to let momentary mood swings dictate your work quality or allow physical fatigue to rewrite your mission. You recognize that these emotional and physical states are temporary, while the impact of your consistency is permanent. If you've experienced the power of living by principles rather than being ruled by feelings, share "Principles Guide Me" in the comments below. When you embrace the declaration that excuses are lies while execution is truth, you naturally begin living by this powerful standard. I act because I said I would, regardless of how I feel. This statement represents the ultimate form of integrity, keeping promises to yourself even when every emotion is screaming for retreat. Most people make the fundamental error of believing that consistency requires motivation, but the revelation that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary journeys is understanding that the difference between dreamers and achievers is rarely talent or opportunity. It's consistent action, even when motivation is completely absent. The awakening that changes everything is recognizing that character isn't built during comfortable moments when action feels easy. It's forged specifically in those moments of resistance when every fiber of your being wants to procrastinate, delay, or abandon your commitments entirely. These aren't unfortunate circumstances to be avoided. They're the precise conditions required to develop uncommon integrity. Behind the scenes of every meaningful breakthrough is this hidden truth. The masters of morning mindset don't wait for inspiration to strike before taking action. They act first, and the inspiration often follows as a natural consequence of engagement. They understand that waiting for the perfect emotional state is perhaps the most sophisticated form of procrastination, one that feels completely justified in the moment, but ultimately keeps you permanently stalled. This perspective creates an immediate shift in how you approach daily responsibilities. The declaration, "I act because I said I would," eliminates the constant internal negotiation that most people engage in. You stop wasting mental energy debating whether you feel like honoring your commitments. The decision was made when you established the commitment. The only question that remains is how to execute most effectively. Now I want to go even deeper into what might be the most transformative insight within this final declaration. Discipline is doing what needs to be done when I don't want to do it. This statement confronts the fundamental misunderstanding that most people have about discipline. They view it as a personality trait that some possess naturally, while others don't. But the revelation that changes everything is recognizing that discipline isn't a character trait. It's a decision made repeatedly in the face of resistance. While emotion constantly whispers, skip it or do it later, discipline demands immediate, focused action regardless of feeling. This isn't about suppressing emotions or denying their existence. It's about refusing to grant them decision-making authority. The transformation occurs when you understand that emotion is perhaps the most unreliable guide for important decisions. It's temporary, fluctuating based on countless variables, from sleep quality to nutrition to recent interactions. Discipline, however, never fails you. It creates a foundation of consistency that builds momentum regardless of emotional weather. It establishes a trajectory of growth that continues even through periods of low motivation or inspiration. The morning declaration, "Discipline is doing what needs to be done," eliminates the emotional prerequisites that keep most people permanently inconsistent. If you've experienced the power of taking action, regardless of how you felt in the moment, share "Discipline decided" in the comments below. As we've journeyed through these 7 powerful morning declarations, I hope you've recognized something profound. These aren't just motivational phrases, they're activation codes for your potential. The miracle of transformation doesn't happen in grand, dramatic moments. It occurs in those quiet decisions made before the world starts demanding your attention each morning. Remember, what you consistently tell yourself becomes your reality. Not because of some mystical law, but because your mind literally reconstructs your experience based on what you repeatedly declare as truth. This is what Neville Goddard understood so clearly. Your imagination, properly directed through disciplined declaration, becomes the blueprint for everything you'll create. I created this content because I've witnessed the extraordinary shifts that occur when people reclaim those first moments of consciousness each day. If you found value in these declarations, if something resonated with your own journey, I'd love for you to become part of our community. Subscribe to continue this conversation about mental mastery and purposeful living. If these morning declarations sparked something in you, if you felt that subtle internal shift that signals recognition of truth, leave a comment saying, "Declarations activated so." I know these words found their way to the right person. And if this message added value to your day, that simple "like you leave" becomes a signal that helps others discover these same principles. It's not just engagement, it's contribution to a larger conversation about human potential. I've prepared another video that builds directly on these principles, showing how to transform these morning declarations into evening reflections that accelerate your growth. Click right there and continue this journey with me. The transformation has already begun. Let's keep building on this foundation together.